Hey, this is Manny with Not Waiting to Live. I'm a former Mercedes Benz car salesman, and in this video, I'm going to give you 5 good reasons an auto market crash is not what you think it is. So I'm going to combine data with my practical, real-life experience as a car salesman to help you set realistic expectations about what might happen to car prices if this coronavirus pandemic continues. So if you're buying or selling right now, I cover all things vehicle negotiation on this channel. Make sure to check out those videos to help you save time and money on your next transaction. But I'm going to dive right into this by talking about what I think is the most relatable point to most people. So what a lot of people think something is worth in general is what somebody is willing to pay for it. And at best, that is a half complete definition, because something is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it and what somebody is willing to sell that for at the same time. So what you'll see here is that if there were to be a discount, a massive discount that some people expect, I see in my comment section, some people are hoping for 50% off or more. If that were to happen, people are also going to have to sell at a discount. So most car buyers tend to bring in a trade-in value, and even during normal times, they tend to get less for their trade-in than they expect. I'm going to walk through an example here. What might happen if we did see 50% discounts on new vehicles. So I've got a depreciation curve here for a 2020, well, I shouldn't say 2020, but a Toyota Corolla in general. And you can see that it takes about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years for a Toyota Corolla to lose half its value. If we had some sort of epic fire sale for the auto market, and let's say somebody could buy a 2020 Toyota Corolla for 50% off, that depreciation curve is going to be affected, because why would I buy a 2013 Toyota Corolla for a price that's equal to a 2020 Toyota Corolla? It's not going to happen. What we might reasonably expect to happen is that if Corolla prices did drop to those levels and other cars like that, the trade-in value of your vehicle is going to be decreased as well. So I just, in the table, I wrote out just some quick math to give you some context. You might come out ahead maybe a few $1,000s in the scenario where the new car price drops and the car that you were going to trade in drops as well. $3,000 compared to $20,000, that's 15%. You're not getting a true discount unless you're only buying and you're going to keep all the cars you have and you're going to hold on to them. It's not going to be as simple as that. Next point, Manheim Used Vehicle Index. So these folks are the American leaders in the wholesale market, and they track the relative value of vehicles over time. And you can see with this graph that during the last recession, the last time that this index dropped more than 10%, the values of those vehicles fully recovered within 7 months. So right now through April, we are seeing another significant 10% drop, almost 11% drop through April. Vehicle values held, wholesale values held through March. They've now dropped. Last time that happened, that's bounced back. And just to point out what that means relative to the wholesale value of vehicles for you. In 2007, if you bought a car for $10,000, a year later, and when I say relative, vehicle values come in cycles. So these year models are moving through, and you're comparing it to what it would have been like to purchase that same vehicle at its relative point in time. And you'll see that it lost 4.5% between 07 and 08. Between September 08 and December, dropped 15% relative to those 2007 levels. But then by September 2009, the values fully recovered, not only to the September 2008, but September 2007 as well. Didn't take long. So what would this next market crash look like? So we've already lost 11% in April. Let's say we double down again, and let's just keep pushing it. Let's say this thing's just really falling apart. It's going down 30%. So we doubled the dip that we saw during the last recession. Then we're talking about a $10,000 vehicle being worth $7,000. That's only $3,000. $3,000 might mean a lot to a lot of people. On a $10,000 car, I certainly understand and respect that. But again, keep in mind that you're also trading in vehicles in those scenarios for the people that are most affected by that type of dip. Next point I want to bring up here. Subprime auto buyers are not who you think they are. So I think in a lot of people's minds, they're trying to fight the last war. You know, there's a saying, and I don't know what it is, about generals always trying to fight the last war. People think that, oh, the housing market crashed and the prices came down hundreds of thousands of dollars. Clearly, it wouldn't be that big of a deal if, you know, my pickup truck was 75% off. And actually, it would be a big deal, and that's not going to happen. And I'm going to show you why. You'll see on the graph here, I bring up auto loan delinquencies relative to total auto loan balances. And this is the most appropriate way, in my opinion, to look at delinquencies, because you'll see other graphs, they'll be like, it'll just go straight up. And it'll be like, oh, auto loan delinquency balances are, you know, triple what they were 15 years ago. And that's not really relevant because auto prices in general have gone up over that time. But what we learned from the last recession and market crash in 08, 09 and beyond, people have demonstrated a willingness to maintain these delinquent balances. And you'll see here that even in the worst of times, people maintain a delinquent balance. They're just keeping their cars even though they can't afford them. And we need some broader context of what does that mean? The average negative equity position for a subprime borrower is $5,000. That's it. If you're a subprime borrower on a home, you owe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I understand this. I flip houses. I bought a house in foreclosure for $38,000 that had sold at the peak of the real estate market for $105,000. I rent it out today. It's great property. I understand those dynamics. It's not the same in the auto market here. The subprime auto borrower is more affected by super high interest rates than anything. If you walk away, if somebody repos your subprime car, okay, great, you lost $5,000. Who cares? I know that can be a big deal to some people, but it's not relative to someone filing for bankruptcy when they're negative $100,000. That's a big difference. When you have your home foreclosed on you, you cannot re-enter the auto market or the housing market. When you have your car taken away from you, you can re-enter the auto market pretty soon. You can go buy a $500 car. It actually increases competition at the lowest end, as opposed to in the housing market where the pool of houses are largely can be assumed to be fixed during a recession. They do still make some new houses, but we lose a pool of buyers. It affects the values across the entire spectrum of houses when someone who can borrow $200,000 disappears. In the auto market, the value is just shifted to the lowest ends, and we see more competition for the cheapest cars. Not to mention, used values depreciate over time. They lose value over time, and the number of valuable cars actually reduces. The supply naturally constricts. And I'll talk about it in a second, but this is the only way to add new vehicles to the used auto market is to buy new vehicles. And that's kind of what I'm going to get into with my fourth point here. Manufacturers have the ability to restrict production. So whoever is making too many cars, if they continue to do so irresponsibly, they're simply going to go out of business. But that doesn't affect the amount of cars that have already been made. We know through March, and we're going to know soon here in April how the production numbers have been affected. But we've seen estimates that through March, they already stopped the production of 500,000 vehicles that would have reached North America. They're no longer going to be made. So they got a miracle of a head start, and it's continued through April. And overall, these auto manufacturers are going to be able to have a good feel for how the supply is going to shift because of that head start with shutting everything down. I know that the last time I made a video on this, we looked at what the projections were, about a couple million short of overall what was previously expected. And we might offset that. We might offset 50% of that just by not making cars that would have otherwise been made. So the manufacturers have their ability to address this problem, and the burden does not, for the people that are overproducing, for the manufacturers that do end up overproducing, because I do think there will be an oversupply, they're going to take on the burden, not necessarily the value of the previous cars that have already been made. They're going to take on that depreciation hit that would have already occurred in the first year that the buyer volunteers to burden. The last point I want to bring out here, and I think it's relevant because I don't think that people fully understand this. Supply and demand is not going to be affected evenly by a recession. So I've got a table here just to show you some of the lowest appreciating vehicles over a 5-year period. Those Wranglers, Toyota Tacomas, 4Runners, there's a Porsche 911 on the list here. When you're looking for a specific car, that doesn't mean you're in the same position as everybody else. Right now, as of Q1, GM full-size pickup sales hit a 13-year high. Kia Telluride, they just released it in 2019, but those sales are up massively. It's a very competitive car. Even in these uncertain times, people are paying near sticker price for those cars, near sticker price or even above sticker price for a lot of these lower supplied cars. Ford Transit, I've got one, I love it. Those sales are up year over year through Q1, that's through March. Not everybody's going to feel the same burden. Not the people that are most affected by an economic recession aren't going to buy all possible cars. So if you found this video useful, please take the time to like the video, comment if you can. This is the way the YouTube algorithm picks up my content, gives my channel more exposure, and gives me the incentive to keep making videos like this. So thanks again. Let me know what you want to see covered next.